Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Ringside Warriors. I am your host, Chris, the Dark Avenger. Today, it is just myself doing this episode. James was unable to be here, and honestly, this episode is coming out a bit late. We're already into the next week's worth of programming, and we are only a few days away from the Royal Rumble as well. However, as of the day of this recording, we've had some major breaking news from WWE that is going to change the face of not just WWE, but wrestling forever. And I believe that is going to be a major talking point of this show. So I'm going to be leaving that for the end of this episode instead of talking about it at the beginning before all the matches, because we've already gotten into this week's shows already. So we're going to go through last week's shows first, and then we'll get into the major news that was that came out today, which is Tuesday, by the way. So we're going into Raw last week. Raw opened up with Cody coming out and talking about the Royal Rumble. And of course, Drew McIntyre once again coming out and whining and complaining about, how he's been through hell, and, he gives Cody a little bit of props, but he, once again, just like with CM Punk, he tells Cody that he is going to win the Rumble. I love the build up with this. I love that we know where kind of Drew is going anyway, and we're going to talk about that towards as we move forward into the night. But it was a really good segment. Again, I'm really looking forward to seeing the Royal Rumble. I think Cody has a lot of potential to once again win and be the main event of WrestleMania. I'm hoping we see Cody win again, and not just Cody win, but Cody able to go for his title, finish his story, and then move forward with a newer story, because the whole point of his story right now is to get the belt, and then it's the title reign. So I'm keeping a hopeful, we'll stay hopeful for a Royal Rumble. I almost said WrestleMania. So then we have our first R-Truth segment of the night, where he's selling Judgment Day t-shirts. And if you'd like your own Judgment Day t-shirt, you can go over to WWE.com. They've made many, and they're making even more. Obviously, they're milking the R-Truth thing for everything it's got. It's hilarious. I love it. But boy, oh boy, the t-shirt shop really benefiting from this. So he's selling t-shirts, and Damian Priest is very upset about it, but then R-Truth gives Damian his cut, and he's like, I got a cut for everybody in the Judgment Day, of course, except for JD, who he says is not part of Judgment Day. So there's that. We then go to, as a matter of fact, JD and Dominic Mysterio versus DIY, which they lose. And again, I feel like we've been saying this the past 2 episodes now since this podcast has started. I really do think that Dominic Mysterio would benefit being in NXT. And honestly, I think JD would benefit. I think the two of them should be the Judgment Day in NXT. I think that they would really benefit a lot being there. But again, they're in Raw right now. DIY won the match. We then get another Judgment Day segment where, of course, JD lost. He's complaining about R-Truth, and they have everything set up for tonight because they've got this big tag team match that they're going to be doing against R-Truth, The Miz, Finn Balor, and Damian Priest. So they're talking about that. We have Gunther, who comes out. He does his segment. He is I believe, the Intercontinental Champion right now. He talks about winning the Royal Rumble, what the Royal Rumble means, yada, yada. We've heard it all from... I was actually glad to see Gunther. I've heard so much about him. Have not had a chance to really, truly watch him wrestle in the ring. Hopefully I get to see him in the ring soon. Outside of course, the Royal Rumble. Because the Royal Rumble, everybody's going to be in the match. Everybody's going to be fighting for one goal. I'd like to see a actual Gunther versus... I know I missed it by only a week or two, because I know Miz and Gunther had a huge match, and it was like everyone was talking about it. It was very good. So I look forward to seeing that. And then, of course, with Gunther was Ludwig, who was talking about how he beat up on Oh shoot, why is name leaving my mind at the moment? From the New Day, of all things, I can't believe I forgot the name. Just shoo, gone. But Xavier Woods ends up coming out and defending his friend, and we get a match: Ludwig versus Xavier Woods, and of course, it's a no contest because once again, Ludwig goes completely off the handle. And the match is a no contest. They go backstage, and Ludwig attacks Xavier Woods again. However, Jey Uso comes to his aid. So maybe we'll see something with Jey Uso and Ludwig at some point until the New Day gets back together. There was a Bronson Reed short, which is I guess going towards Rumble and him coming to Raw. Rhea comes out and does another segment about being the women's champion, and whoever wins the women's championship, you're going to be dealing with her. Again, we've got Becky, we've got Nia. I would love to see a triple threat somehow. Maybe the last two in the ring will be Nia and Becky, and somehow they both fall out at the same time, and it leads to a triple threat match at WrestleMania. I think that would be really cool. And again, if Rhea was to lose the belt at WrestleMania, then it wouldn't have to be because she was pinned. It could be because Becky was pinned. It could be because Nia was pinned. And it opens the door to her getting the belt back at some point, possibly. I'm really interested in seeing who's going to win both Royal Rumbles. I'm very excited for the pay-per-view this weekend, if you guys couldn't tell. So then we get The Miz and R-Truth versus Finn Balor and Damian Priest. And again, I love R-Truth to death, but of course, Finn Balor and Damian Priest end up winning the match because of what do you call it? They try to use R-Truth to not fight, and it's just Miz versus all of them. But of course, R-Truth still comes in, he still fights Finn. And then Damian Priest obviously gets involved. And it's kind of like that Shawn Michaels, I love you. And goodbye moment where he literally chokeslams R-Truth. The Judgment Day wins, but you could tell that Damian is really starting to like R-Truth. And again, as much as I love the goofiness, it's cool when it's attached to JD and Dominic because, they need a little bit more to those two. But when it involves the entire crew of Judgment Day, I don't want them to start looking like a joke. They were a dominant force in 2023 from what I've heard, from all the highlights I've seen. I don't want to see them go down because of it, if that makes any sense. However, a lot of people love R-Truth. I love R-Truth. Do not get me wrong. R-Truth is one of the highlights when it comes to stuff like this. But I really do feel like at some point, I think tonight would have been a perfect night to kind of put an end to R-Truth. I have not watched Raw this week yet, so I don't know if there's more. There probably will be. We'll have to see what happens. Now, we're going to talk about this match, and then we're going to talk about the news that came after this match. Jinder Mahal versus Seth Rollins, with Seth Rollins once again winning. However, Jinder really... Seth gave... It was a really good match. I enjoyed the match. Was it match of the week for me? No, that will go to something else, and we'll talk about that when we get into SmackDown. But the ending where Seth was doing the curb stomp, Jinder made sure his head, not on purpose, obviously, but usually when it's a curb stomp, the person is on the mat with his head only approximately about this far from the mat. So when Seth does the curb stomp, their head goes down towards the mat. He doesn't have to jump too high. It's literally supposed to be a curb stomp. And what I noticed, and before I even heard about the injury that Seth Rollins got from it, tearing his muscle in his knee, you could see that Jinder was actually higher up from the ground on an angle, and Seth had to reach his leg up because, again, he has to be able to at least reach the head. And he reached so high and stretched so high to get to where Jinder's head was that when his head went down into the mat and Seth's other knee went into the mat, you could see that he got hurt. You could see exactly the moment where his knee started to hinge the most throughout the entire match. And then, of course, he wins. But I feel like that curb stomp, Jinder's head should have been way lower. Call it ring rust, call it what have you. I don't know why Jinder Mahal came back. I don't know who in their right mind wanted Jinder back. I mean, literally, I thought when he first came back, he was literally just a setup for The Rock's return. Like, literally, they used him as cannon fodder for The Rock. And then we had another segment with him on week 2. And now here we are with week 3. And he's already got a title match. Okay. We all knew he wasn't going to win anyway because Seth's going into WrestleMania with the belt. However, now Seth is injured because of the match. So I'm hoping if WWE does keep Jinder around, which I doubt, maybe I'm wrong. I know he's been in NXT because he has his 2 cronies who were with him throughout the match, and they're part of NXT. They're a tag team in NXT. He needs work because if wrestlers start getting injured because of his matches, that's not good, especially when it's the World Heavyweight Champion. You don't want that to happen. So we go into NXT now. And again, when it comes to NXT, once again, I'm trying hard to really get into the characters. I will say the women's 21 person battle royale was amazing. It was my favorite match of the night. However, it was the last match of the night. So Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams versus Malik Blade and Edris Anafi. I'm probably butchering the names, and I apologize for that. But me and James talked about this last week. We think that Carmelo and Trick are going to go all the way to the end, and then somebody's going to turn on somebody else. I think it's going to be Carmelo. James made a good point about Trick Williams. But anyway, of course, Trick and Carmelo win the match. Excellent. I do love the way Trick Williams wrestles. I love the way Carmelo wrestles. Hell yeah. Looking forward to this is again going into the Dusty Rhodes tournament, tag team tournament. Then we got a segment with Oba Femi about the United States Championship. We have Dragon Lee coming out wanting a rematch, and Oba says, "You're not getting it tonight." And he says, "Well, then I want it at the pay-per-view." And Oba says, "You don't run things. I'm the head. I'll let you know when you can fight me. I'll consider it." And then he walks off. So we'll see. We get a segment with Trick Williams where Ilya comes back, the NXT World Champion, and he says, "We will fight at the pay-per-view." And he's like, "Absolutely, yes, 100%. Let's do it." And that's when Carmelo reminds him after Ilya walks away that, dude, we have our tag team tournament the same day, the same pay-per-view. So now Trick Williams is going to be in 2 matches. Will he survive both? Will he only survive one? Stay tuned to find out. We then had Lyra Valkyria with Dana Paxley versus Elektra Lopez and Lola Vice. Of course, Lyra Valkyrie and Dana Paxley win, but we'll see where. Again, I love how Dana seems like the fangirl for Lyra. It's kind of weird. Again, it reminds me back when Trish had her stalker / fangirl. So again, it was a fun match. Again, when it comes to the NXT matches, I don't feel like I could add much. Ridge Holland versus Joe Coffey. Ridge Holland wins. However, Gallus ends up attacking Ridge after he wins the match, and Joe Coffey gets upset about it. He beats up on him too. So it was kind of a 3-on-1. We'll see where that develops. There was a really funny Baron Corbin and Braun Breaker segment where they're interviewed, and Braun Breaker comes out with a bunch of really shitty tag team names for the two of them, but you could tell that they don't get along. But it's kind of like, again, it's kind of like Booker T Goldust kind of deal where two like oil and water kind of deal with the tag team, but in the end, you know they're going to be really good, hopefully. So I'm looking forward to that. We then had Duke Hudson and Riley Osborne versus Cruz Del Rio and Joaquin Wilde, the LWO. LWO wins, and I believe they continue with the tournament because they are also in the tournament. I believe this was a tournament match, if I'm remembering correctly. Really good match. Again, the LWO. My only thing is they're in NXT and they're in WWE, because we will see them again on SmackDown, but I guess we get to see superstars in both places. I feel like if they're in WWE SmackDown, leave the door open for other tag teams in NXT. Again, this is me though. This is my opinion. And then before the big women's battle royale, we had Dijak versus Trey Bearhill. Dijak wins. Of course, Lexis King, because of Trey Bearhill interfering in his match, he comes out and beats up on Trey after he loses. I feel like this is a match that's in the works for the pay-per-view. I am looking forward to it. I do like Trey Bearhill. He also has a mentor or somebody that's mentoring him, or vice versa, one or the other. I know there was a backstage segment, so that was really cool. And then the rest of the show was the women's battle royale. Again, I don't know any of these women wrestlers really, so it was a fun match. I enjoyed the battle royale, and then there were 4 people left, and the winner of the match was Roxanne Perez. Looking forward to seeing her going against Lyra Valkyria at the pay-per-view. I'm sure there's a segment going on right now as I'm recording this during NXT. I'm looking forward to talking about that, and I'm looking forward to seeing the two of them fight at the pay-per-view. That is my NXT rundown. That's really all I could say. NXT, it's going to take some time growing on me, but again, if AEW did, and I didn't know any of the superstars there, eventually things will catch on with NXT and me with all of the superstars. It's just going to take time, as anything does. So, SmackDown, which I feel was honestly the stronger show this week. Roman Reigns is back. He opens up the show. He shows up. There's the big contract signing, and of course, Roman Reigns refuses to sign. He only wants a one-on-one match. We had Paul Heyman come out and say, nope, he's not signing it. He wants a one-on-one match. Of course, the other 3 end up getting into a fight because they start saying about how LA talks about how he deserves a rematch, and AJ says, you screwed up. It's my turn. You stepped over me when I was out. And Randy Orton saying, hey, I deserve a shot too. And all 3 of them end up fighting. We go backstage, and AJ Styles asks for a match against LA Knight because apparently neither of them really care about Randy at this point. Okay. Even though Randy's the one that's kind of trying to wake both of them up a bit and say, yeah, bloodline's our problem. Not we should be focusing on the bloodline, which he's right, but it's a belt. What can you say? So then the first match of the night was the LWO once again. Carlito, Cruz del Toro, Joaquin Wilde versus Angel, Humberto, and Santos Escobar, Legado del Fantasma. And of course, Santos finds a way to... The match was great, high-flying, all over the place, really great match, but Santos is able to pull out a win, and Legado del Fantasma wins the match. Really great match. Again, I enjoy watching the LWO wrestlers wrestle. It's great to see Carlito back. Haven't seen Carlito wrestle in forever. But we then have pretty... I don't know if I'll ever take them seriously. Oh, God, I need a drink for this one. Okay. Pretty Deadly versus Tyler Bate and his new tag team partner for this match, Pete Dunne. They thought he was going to get his tag team partner from 2 weeks ago again. He brought somebody new in. And of course, Tyler Bates and Pete Dunne make easy work of Pretty Deadly. And they're upset about that. And I'm like, not surprised. So, yeah, Pretty Deadly is going to take some time to get pretty used to them. No. Oh, God. I don't know when I'm ever going to take Pretty Deadly seriously. Maybe if they change the way they are, or maybe if WWE decides to give them a real heel push or something. But till then, it was a funny match. That's all I could say. We then have the Kevin Owens show with Logan Paul. It's the cliche back and forth. You can't do it without your brace, and Kevin Owens saying, you're not, you proved to everybody that you could wrestle. And then apparently Kevin Owens is the reason why Logan Paul came into wrestling. And he's like, listen, dude, I'm taking that belt from you. He takes the cast off, and Logan Paul tries to get in a cheap blow, except unlike all the other superstars, he didn't knock Kevin Owens out. Kevin Owens got back up. And yes, the fight. I am looking forward to Kevin Owens and Logan Paul at the Royal Rumble. Kevin Owens will not be wearing the cast, so I'm hoping that Logan Paul does not take advantage of the moment like he did this week, where he hurt Kevin Owens' hands and was able to get the upper hand and leave him laying at the bottom of the mat. But we'll have to wait and see for the match on Saturday. We still have Smackdown this coming Friday first. We had another Roman segment where he's backstage saying, you guys didn't do the job. I told you guys to deal with it. You didn't. Solo says, it's my fault. I screwed up. I'll deal with the problem. Then opens up to Kate Carter and Katana Chance versus Nyla Dawn and Alba Fire. The women's tag team champions, really interesting. And they also tease that Damage Control wants their belts, the tag team belts. The tag team champs obviously win. I guess we'll have to wait for that type of match. I didn't really, this was like the lower tier match for me. I feel like it was more to spotlight the women's champions and also bring out Damage Control to show that they're looking towards those belts as well. That's really all I got from this match. Otherwise, it was it was my least favorite match of the night, followed, of course, by Pretty Deadly. We had a Carmelo Hayes segment where, once again, he puts the challenge out. He talks about the incident that happened last week, and they show up. They're not happy about it, but he says we could have a rematch. And, of course, he says no. Friend says yes. It's the classic situation. So Carmelo gets a rematch next week, and hopefully nobody gets hurt this time. I guess they're doing a rematch, obviously, because of the injury. Obviously, that was more than likely real. Both of them survived it. Both of them are okay. So we're going to go along with them having the rematch next week. And it's going to end the way it was supposed to end last week. So they're just stretching it out a bit more. We then go to the last two matches of the night. And there's a reason why I say that. Because AJ Styles versus LA Knight, excellent match. I was loving it. It was great until Solo and Jimmy Uso came out to interrupt. Screwed up the match. The match was a no contest because of Solo and Jimmy laying out both AJ and LA Knight. But then Randy Orton comes out and says, okay, you're out here already, Solo. It's our turn. It's our match. Randy Orton versus Solo. The last match of the night. This was my favorite match. This and AJ Styles versus LA Knight, even though it was a no contest, are my two favorite matches of the night. Randy Orton obviously not allowing for Solo to get the job done, is able to put Solo down 1, 2, 3. Then Roman Reigns comes out, takes out Randy Orton, signs the contract, says, fine, whatever. We'll do the fatal 4-way match. And that's when he tries to spear Randy Orton one more time. And Randy is able to RKO Roman. So it ends with Randy Orton standing pretty damn tall. And by the way, during Randy Orton's match with Solo, AJ and LA Knight come back out again to help Randy, like he helped them. Yeah, it was a really good teaser for the Fatal 4-Way match. I'm looking forward to SmackDown, this last SmackDown before we get into the Royal Rumble. And those are the shows. Now, the major stuff that happened this week. Today, that was announced. Two major announcements. The first one, we'll talk about this one first because I think this is a smaller thing to talk about. The Rock was brought on to the board. He is now an executive member on the board at the table behind the scenes at WWE. So he's going to be working with Triple H now. And I think that's great in a way because The Rock's been around as long as Triple H. His family's been in the business for generations. His family still is in the business. And I feel like The Rock is definitely going to bring something to the table while he is working in the board. I guess it's called the board. He's basically at the table with Triple H doing all the executive stuff behind the scenes and the work for WWE. Cool. A few people don't like The Rock. If you don't like The Rock, that's completely cool. Your opinion. As far as a person, I don't know The Rock. I'm not friends with The Rock. I'm not going to sit here and make a personal judgment on a man's personal life because I don't know him. I know him as The Rock, and I know him as a movie star as well. Okay. The Rock, at the end of the day, though, he knows the business as good as Triple H. And do you guys really think he's going to screw up WWE? I don't think so. So it's good to have somebody experienced on board at TKO with Triple H on the board to really kick things up with SmackDown, Raw, NXT, and the Superstars. So I think this is all positive. The next thing I feel is going to be the most controversial thing because you can fall under one of three ways. So WWE Raw they made the announcement today, Triple H, that WWE Raw, as of January 2025, will be exclusive to Netflix. So Raw is leaving the USA Network and going exclusively to Netflix. SmackDown will be going to USA, and then I believe NXT is staying on the CW or going to CW. So what does this mean? Well, it goes three ways. The people that already have Netflix go, cool. I already have Netflix. I don't have to worry about, where Raw's going because I've already got it. Second group, well, looks like I'm going to have to put down the $6 a month with the ads on it for Netflix. And then there's the third group, which are the people that are saying, I don't have Netflix or I dropped Netflix. I don't want Netflix. It's not worth it just for Raw. Where do you fall? I'm more than willing to hear it in the comments below. Feel free to let me know where you fall. I am falling under the category of I've just got back into wrestling. The fire and enjoyment have returned to me. Do I like Netflix? No. As a company, I think Netflix is a shitty, crappy company. However, putting my pride and how I feel about the Netflix company aside and their shady business dealings and whatnot, I am a WWE fan and I love Raw. Raw is my number one favorite show. SmackDown sometimes, like this week, SmackDown proved to be number one. It happens. I don't want to lose out on watching Raw because they decided to sign a 10-year, $5 billion deal with NXT. So more than likely, I am falling under the category of closer to 2025. I'm probably going to pay the $6 a month to watch Raw on Netflix. And then, of course, get all the benefits that Netflix has, all the shows that Netflix has. That's fine. What can I do? However, this is monumentous because this is the first time in the 30 years that Raw has been out that Raw will not be on a cable program channel. They will not be on TV at all. This is a streaming service only, Netflix. This is the first time ever that a weekly live show is being moved to a streaming platform over a network television channel. And that's crazy. And it does have me worried, though, because if you really look at it, right, you need Hulu if you want to watch SmackDown on a weekly basis, because Peacock, you have 4 weeks before they bring out the episodes for SmackDown, NXT, and Raw. So if you want to watch your SmackDown, you need Hulu. NXT, as well as the pay-per-views for now, are on Peacock. So you need Peacock. And now, as of 2025, Raw is going to be on Netflix. So basically, you are splitting your brand into 3 different streaming companies. And that's making it tough on the WWE community, in my opinion, because some people might not have Peacock, some people might not have Hulu, some people might not have Netflix. But now, if you want to be able to get everything from WWE, you need Hulu. And Hulu has a bunch of different plans. I'm not going to sit here and talk about them. I have the bigger plan because we chose Hulu over cable. So we have all the cable channels plus everything else. You have Peacock. That's minimum. I believe we pay $5 a month for Peacock. And now you got to add another $6 expense for Netflix. So already, if you take the 5 and the 6, that's $11. And then let's figure you go for the $12 deal for Hulu. You're paying 20 something dollars a month to catch 3 shows and a pay-per-view. I'm hoping that at some point WWE finds one streaming service to be on. If it's Netflix, cool. I'm still going to have Hulu and Peacock because I use those for other things. But at the same time, I don't think WWE should be spread out between 3 different streaming companies. Again, it's my opinion, but the way of the world is changing. Cable TV isn't being used as much anymore. The streaming services are the place to be. Unfortunately, when the streaming service first came out, they didn't have ads on there. Same thing as I learned from my parents. When cable first came out, it was watch all your shows without commercials. And then, of course, cable needed money. Commercials came to Cablevision. Netflix happened. There were no advertisements. It was ad-free, watching movies, TV, whatever. And then, as with everything, advertisements came in. And then it's like, well, if you don't want the ads, you got to pay double the bill. So either you're going to pay double the bill or you pay $5 and you deal with the 5 or 6 minute ads. I am not paying more than $5 or $6 for Netflix. So I'll take the ads, whatever. We're going to need them anyway because there's commercial breaks in between. But I'm sticking around. This is changing the face of wrestling. It's huge news. However, I do feel like the fan base is going to take a hit. And I'm hoping that Netflix doesn't get a big head and decides to raise their prices to astronomical, prices because of the fact that a bunch of WWE people are going to be coming in. So I'm hoping that Netflix doesn't try to inflate their prices to go, oh, well, all of you want Raw? It's not $6 anymore. It's $10, just for an example. And I think there was already rumors that their prices are going up. So I hope those rumors are not right, or I don't know. I've not followed Netflix. Not a fan of Netflix, but once again, I do want to still see Raw. So I'm probably going to be strong-armed into getting it. Boo-hoo. My kids will enjoy some of the shows that are on Netflix. I had Netflix once upon a time. I guess I'll have it again. Whatever. It's huge, though. This is huge news. And what do you all think of that? I'm curious to see what you guys think of NXT. NXT. Raw now being exclusive to Netflix as of January 2025. And we still don't know what's going to happen between October and January because their contract ends in October on USA. Will USA hold them over for 2 months? Will they have to pay USA? Will USA have to give them a pay cut for a couple of months to stay there? I hope we at least go to January before we lose Raw. But again, we'll have to wait and see what unfolds as we get closer to the end of October. Maybe Netflix will start early. I'll be ready. I'm sure all of you will be ready. And that's it for this episode, guys. I don't want to go too long, losing my voice a bit. But till next time, as always, links are in the description below if you'd like to follow me on social media. If you'd like to join the Discord, again, links in the description below as well. Till next time, everybody, take care, keep reading, keep collecting, and I will see all of you really soon in the next video. Take care, everybody.